Welcome to the Meeple Syrup After Show, Designers Discussing Design. We're on episode 59, Is Good Good Enough? And we just had a wonderful discussion with Eduardo Baraf and Jim Pinto, and Jim humored us with staying with us for the after show. We didn't put him through enough punishment yet, so we haven't scared him away, so we're thankful that he's here with us. We're going to continue the conversation and see wherever it might go. Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I gotta ask Sen, what, we often during the show try to focus on our guests, but I know you have a lot to say on this topic as well. I'm curious, for you, how do you know when one of your games is good enough to show a publisher? I know that's a different question, but how do you discern when a game's good enough to pitch?
Oh, I think I've talked about this a lot, but I can mention it again. I want, if people are telling stories about the game, right? If people have played the game enough and liked it enough that they're telling other people about the game, but also reliving the meta.
Yep.
Because for me, a game experience is nothing until there's a meta. When somebody is actually saying, next time I'm going to do this, and oh man, when this happened, I didn't know it was until I rolled the dice, and wow, boom. And so if people are telling stories like that about my game, I know that we're onto something good.
Yeah.
And so while playtesting with designers is great, sometimes they don't get to that level of engagement with the game.
Well,
because
they often don't allow themselves.
Right,
to
because they're really dissociated from it from an analytical point of view. So that's why I like it when, quote unquote real players play the game and can give that kind of not even feedback, just their experience, and I watch that experience unfold. And when people do that, then I know that we've got something good.
Yep.
I typically don't like playing games with designers, to be honest. I don't like playing my games with designers.
Yeah, no, I remember you mentioned that, Jim. Explain why.
I think I'll use James Ernest as an example, right? James is really good at what James does.
Yep.
But James and I do not design anything alike.
Right.
And so James's feedback on what I'm doing right and wrong,
yes,
is probably not going to be useful to me. And
no, it's going to constantly make it more of a James kind of game.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to get defensive about it, to be honest. And I don't like being there. I don't like that interaction when it happens.
Right.
And so I avoid it. We were sitting down with, I forget his name, Craig?
Yep.
When we sat down and played that one board game when you were out here.
Yep.
And he said, oh, why don't you come to this thing? And in the back of my head, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was just thinking, I actually don't. I love designers, and I have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and I see them when I'm at Gen Con, but I do not like talking design with them because we just come from two different perspectives on what a game should be.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe I would go kind of more Sen's direction. Obviously, I've been influenced by Sen on this, but I think even Sen mentioned it there. There is almost a different type of experience and feedback loop that you're getting from a non-designer. That's obviously very important.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm learning when I'm playtesting with designers is how to hear them. I mean, even early on,
Yes.
As a designer, I automatically put too much weight into, oh, well, you're a successful designer, so I should just do what you say. But as I learn and as I have, some really exceptional feedback from designers, especially for me, I'm surrounded by some really great designers that try to think through, wait, is this feedback for your game, or is this feedback, trying to make it into my game?
Yeah.
I think when you find some good people and they're really trying to help your game, there are still some really useful questions that can happen. I mean, even one thing that I thought was really fun, and I had mentioned it on the early show, I played a prototype called Soul from a new designer. I looked it up during the in-between time. The designer is Ryan Spangler, and actually he's designing it with his brother Sean Spangler. New designers, but what was interesting was that they were open to my feedback, but I was also really cautious that I don't want to sway them too much because he's a new designer. So there's a part of me that there's a responsibility of saying, here's some things to look at, but don't lose your game. You explore the problem and see how you would answer those problems. So I think that's part of it.
what I do when somebody's in that situation showing me their game and I'm giving feedback, and I hope I give good feedback. I really do. I
Yeah.
would hate to be that guy that gives people bad feedback, but I try to look at every angle. And one of the things that I say is, if I were to take this game away from you right now and develop it,
Yeah.
here are the things that I, as the developer, would do to get this to market.
Right.
And I always try to make it clear to them that this is what I would do.
Yep.
That this is their game, and you need to do what's going to make you happy.
Yep.
But if you want this thing to be, I don't want to say successful. That's a horrible thing to say.
Maybe
if you want this
more
thing to get to
accessible.
right, if you want this thing to be more accessible, if you want it to get to market,
Yep.
these are the changes that you should make. And the best people actually to sit down and do that with are people that are UX designers, right?
Mhm.
They look at a product or a game or a finished anything in a much different way
Yep.
than a consumer would. And so my buddy Stuart Mulder, who you didn't get to meet when you were up here, Daryl, but he games with Suze and I a lot.
Actually, I think I did meet him.
Did you get to meet him?
Maybe at Sasquatch. I met a Stuart.
Maybe. He was probably there. Stuart's a great guy to give a rule book to or whatever, because he really does try to look at it from the LCG point of view. He's not LCG, but he tries to look at it from an LCG point of view and break it down. Does this pass the dummy test?
Right.
Yeah, I think we're like that with one of our collaborators, Josh Capel, the good graphic designer.
Mhm.
Same
he's
thing. Like
phenomenal at that.
if we pass something by him, we know that once we get it back, it's going to change, but for the better. And I think that's part of it as well, is trusting the people who you get feedback from. And so, and it is that personality thing as well, like you're saying, Jim. So I mean, Gerald and I have obviously met James, and I can say that I'm not sure if I would appreciate the feedback he gave me either in certain ways, right? Because it's James, and he's a great guy. I love his designs. I think I fanboyed out a little bit when I first met him, but I can see the kind of relationship that could possibly happen if it was in a feedback sort of thing. So I mean, and that's a lot of people say grow thick skin when you get into design because you're going to get feedback that you don't like. And I'm with you, Jim, that I would rather not be the person to try to pierce that thick skin on purpose.
Right.
I mean, it might.
I
but
see. I'm maybe
not my job.
I'm maybe a glutton for punishment then, because as much as I wouldn't, I would love that. I mean, a part of me, and this has come up on previous shows with Sen and I, but like for instance, like I love arguing.
Oh, he loves arguing.
So I mean, I just love it. So someone like James, I know I could get a worthwhile argument, and probably from the argument I'll glean more from. He might not like it, but that's where like I would probably get more out of that.
I learned so much during debate because people really, I think people are usually very passive about how they talk until they're defending their point of view.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're getting the real meat out of somebody, and you learn so much then. I have a story to tell about the Tempest line when I was working on it back at Asshat. I designed 4 board games in a short period of time, and there were CCG players at that company and CCG designers and know-it-alls, essentially know-it-alls, who all wanted to thumbprint what I was doing instead of looking at what it was that I was doing and trying to figure out if their thumbprint actually fit the whole gestalt of the game, right?
Yep.
And as soon as Dominare was out of my hands and they had it, they removed 3 core rules from the game and essentially removed 2 paths to victory by doing it. Which it was a horrible decision on their part, and the cards are ugly and hard to read, and there's so many bad decisions that were made that I wasn't in charge of anymore. Now my name's on it, and people aren't getting the experience out of it that I intended for them to get.
Yep.
And as a designer, I just have to. I mean, I can be bitter about it, and I am, since I love that game so much. But I just have to eventually just step aside and say, well, that's what they did with the product, and so be it. But
that's
I've
been the danger with them instead of why you control something like 100 AD.
Right. And the irony is, when I was the developer of Thunderstone, I had the exact opposite experience, in that the changes I was trying to make to it to make it fun for me, I wasn't allowed to make those changes.
Hmm.
To the game, and so the end result is it's not really my favorite, and I don't like deck builders anyway. We talked about this when you were down,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that game.
we bonded, Sam.
Okay, that's
Me and
good.
Jim bonded on our anti deck building love, and
Yeah,
then Jim taught me Star Realms, and I enjoyed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Star Realms is satisfying.
It is
Yeah.
like,
And I like what you're talking about in terms of satisfaction. Not that it should be our end goal, but it should be part of it, right? And when Eduardo was talking about the package and the whole product, and you as well, that's sort of where when we pitch to a publisher, we do try to pitch a whole product idea,
yeah,
a concept, not just the game. We try to
for
talk
sure.
about this is what it could look like, this
Yeah,
is what the experience would be. It's more than just the game because what sells now and really what we're trying to craft more than just a game is an experience of the playing of a game.
yep,
Hmm.
I think a game by itself is great and fun. Bits by itself without rules is not a game, but then a game without players playing it, is that a game? It's like Tree in the Forest without
Hmm.
does anybody hear it if it falls? So if nobody's playing this game, if nobody's getting a good experience out of it, is it still a game?
How many people is nobody, right? That's a great point, Sen. But if you make a game and one person thinks it's the greatest thing you've ever made, was that enough?
I don't know. What do you think?
For me, yeah, absolutely.
well, this is a
I
funny.
have 50
This is
fans, so I'm happy for one of if one of them's happy.
well, so this is the interesting thing about the question too. Is I think to myself, so what kind of designer do I want to be? Like, do I want to be the type of designer that makes games that are maybe loved by a few or experienced by many? I had the wonderful experience at Sasquatch of ironically being probably surrounded by the only four people that have played my game, and
In the world?
it felt like it.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like it was really funny. But I was standing, and there was a couple people from Portland, a couple people from Seattle, and a couple people from Texas. I was just chatting to them, and then all of a sudden, someone goes, "Oh, are you the Daryl?" And I was like, "I'm a Daryl."
The Daryl?
And then they're like, "The one that made Walled City," and everyone all of a sudden got very happy. And I was like, "Wow, you're the only people that bought my game. Thank you." And
Yep.
yet at that time, I'm thinking to myself, well, this is why I made the game. Like I'm thankful that these people appreciated it from all over the map. That all of a sudden got the experience. It was funny hearing them tell me what they think the game's all about, and I was like, yeah, that's what I was going for. Like, it was actually like, oh, it actually translated, because sometimes you just kind of listen to the critics and you forget that some people actually got the experience you were trying to give.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, yeah, like that's that was a really refreshing moment of just kind of like, that's what I'm trying to do here. And but it's really tempting to fall into making games that lots of people will experience and not necessarily a few people will love.
I think it would be a great panel, Daryl,
Yeah,
Jim, and Eric
Eric Lang.
Lang,
Oh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, we'll set that up.
Lang and I are good friends.
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
set that up.
because that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah, for
Eric
sure.
has this theory, we've talked about it before. Never when Eric's on for some reason, but Eric talks about the rock star, the artist, and the
Yeah.
entertainer, and what do you want to be?
Oh.
And Daryl, what do you want to be when you
I don't
grow
know.
up?
I'm still a little bit figuring it out, but it was a very satisfying moment to be kind of the artist there. So that was a moment of feeling a little bit like an artist and going, okay, I liked what I crafted and made, and I'm proud of that. I'm still wrestling, and this year is all about me kind of wrestling with where is my fit in the industry. So I'm still leaving myself open to that question.
Mhm. And Jim, where is your fit in the industry
I think
specifically?
I think now I'm an artist. When I showed up, I probably wanted to be a rock star. Um, I think having my name printed the very first time it was on a book cover was pretty
Mm.
awesome. I don't care anymore. We talked about that the first time it was on the air. I mean, I just don't care anymore if my name appears in print. I just want to make stuff. But when I think the reason that love of being a rock star faded was the amount of nonsense you have to put up with to be in the limelight. And I saw the people going after it, and I didn't want to be anything like them, right? I wanted to be recognized, but I didn't want to be a personality.
No,
I've
no,
never,
and
I've
an
never
artist
been
still
anything
wants
but
to be
honest.
appreciated. I think an artist still wants to be appreciated and respected. It's just different than a rock star. A rock star is, getting all the limelight.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. This is gonna sound really shallow. I would love to be respected. I really would.
Yep.
But I think, again, we're talking about work. We're talking about I have to present a different persona that's not me, right? And I have to deal with personalities. We live in
we like you for who you are. So
I appreciate that, but I think once you decide that you want to be respected or you demand respect,
right, demand's different. Yeah, I hear you.
yeah, you start building a barrier between you and others.
Yes,
That I think is unnatural for me. I think if I was 70 and a professor with a doctorate, it would be a different thing about being respected. But I just want to be respected for the fact that I've been doing this a really long time and I know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And I don't want to have to fight to get my voice heard every single time I say, you know what, Dominion's not a game.
Right.
Stop arguing with me. It is not a game. I don't want to have to explain yet again why it's not a game. Jim Pinto has said it's not a game, and that's really where that conversation should end. And I know that's arrogant, and there's no way around that, but I get so tired of having to explain every single time why Dominion's not a game.
I love it. Well,
definitely don't become an academic. That's all we do. We explain our thoughts.
Absolutely. Well, another conversation we were kind of having off air, and really I think it fits into this as well, and we were even talking with Ed about this just before he left, was, the need to love what you're doing. I mean, we're talking about designing games here.
Right.
And this is a privilege. Like, this is awesome. And when we lose perspective of that, we're in trouble. So I'm curious, do you still love making games? What are you guys saying? Do you enjoy it?
You asking me or Sen?
Sen, you start.
Oh yeah, I still love making games. I'm more a thinker. I've always been a thinker.
Yep.
So I enjoy that part much more than the rest of it.
Yep.
So I will never be a developer. Never. Right. It's just not in my makeup to sit and play the same game 100 times and build. Other than during the design process, but once I think it's done, I have a very big mental block in my head that it's done.
Yep.
I need to move on to the next thing. Whether that's a mental block or whether that's spurring me on to further greatness, I don't know. But it's one of the things that I do find difficult with playtesting and repeated playtesting and repeated playtesting. I would make the worst QA person. The worst. Right? Because I just couldn't do the same level over and over again. I'm not a grinder. I'm in this to work my brain. That's if my brain doesn't work, I go crazy. So designing games is a way to get the craziness out of my head. And if I was constantly working on the same thing, it would be very difficult for me. And it's another reason why I don't publish. It's because publishing doesn't really push the buttons I need pushed. I recognize there's somewhere in me wants the money.
Yeah.
The money would be nice. But the time and effort it takes to get that money at the cost of what it's doing to the rest of my creative process would be not worth it. So I've never really thought about it more than what would be the easiest thing to kickstart. That would be, like, it's a deck of cards, I might do that one, right?
Yeah.
If it's got cool art and it's a fun game and maybe make a little very small boutique run of it, like 1,000 copies, that's all we're ever making ever.
Yeah.
And I'm destroying anyone that I don't sell. I'm not putting it through distribution. If I could do that, I'd do it.
You become the next who did food chain magnate? Splotter.
Splotter. Yeah, Splotter's kind of like that, but a little different. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to that "is it good enough" question that we have, and I mean, for people who are listening who don't know where that all came from, it sort of started with Doug and JR's article about, do publishers pass on good games that are finished, and why do they do that? And a lot of the article was about, well, it doesn't fit our line, it doesn't, the theme doesn't resonate with us. It's we're tight for money. We have to pass on it. All sorts of good logical reasons why a good game wouldn't get picked up. And then a couple of them were like, well, no, I mean, good is not good enough. It has to be great. And so that's where those sorts of questions came up from.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating when the more and more I pitch, the more and more I hear a different publisher say it, and it'll come out in a few different ways, but each publisher kind of has their thing. So, I mean, if you go to Yellow will say, like, we're looking for something great that pops out, that's unusual, and they're looking to catch the next King of Tokyo. That's legitimately what they'll say, or at least have said straight to my face and to other designers. You talk to some other publishers that'll say, I need to be able to contribute, like, to add my value. So I need to see, can I think of ways that I'm going to make this game better? And to be honest, I really respect that. When a publisher says, I'm passing because this game's good, but I don't see where I would add value. I mean, thank you for being straight. Like that's really appreciated. And then some publishers are looking for, just make sure it's done and make sure it could sell.
Yeah, and some publishers, they can't handle the production value of what it would take to make a certain type of game, right? So there's lots and lots of reasons. And how does that affect us as designers when we're going to pitch to publishers? From a self-publishing view, it's a little different. But from a pitching view, do we cater our games to what publishers what we think they'll pick up? I know we do. We do think about component count. We always write it down. We always try to pare down as many, as few custom dice as possible, that kind of thing. And the other question, I guess, would be, oh, sorry, I've lost my train of thought there.
Well, Jim was looking like he wanted to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, well, I think this is the cynic in me, and this is a lot of what I said before. There's a difference between games and product, right? Mm-hmm. And you have publishers who just want you to hand them the next ticket to ride.
Right.
They don't want to take any risks. They just want to copy whatever. And Asshat was doing this right after Dominion was big, with every single deck builder that it could make, because it was a CCG company and it didn't know how to make anything else.
Right. It was hot.
Right, and the belief was that this was printing money. And you saw what happened. Legend of the Five Rings went away because they ignored it, because they didn't manage it properly. And I'll talk trash about that all day long, by the way, if you want me to. But they didn't manage it. It was suffering. It was suffering for years, and it was the company cash cow. How do you let that happen and let that game slip away? That just makes no sense. And so you have people who are chasing some dollar somewhere rather than just focusing on making what they like and making it good. Right, or making it satisfying. Make that thing, and stop worrying about what is going to print money. Rio Grande only makes games that print money. Mayfair only makes games that print money. Fantasy Flight only makes toys that make money. Z-Man Games used to take risks, but now they're owned by some big publisher up there in Canada, and now they only make things that make money. These companies aren't taking risks anymore, and so they're just making product. And it's a tough spot for all of us to be in, because if we want to design, we need to design something that enriches us. And if we can't make something that's enriching once in a while, then why are we making anything at all? Because anybody can crank out the next Ticket to Ride. They really can. It's not that difficult.
Well, it's a very simple game.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now, you can't go into it saying, I'm going to make the next Ticket to Ride.
No. But it's
you can go in saying, I'm going to make something that has 2 options in it, that has 3 different nodes, and boom, I'm done.
Well, it's like creating a pop song.
Yeah.
There's going to be a next pop hit.
Yeah, there's some formula at some level to some of these things. My question, here's what it was. So this also is partly spurred on by the Tom Vassell statement that good games will find a home. In sort of paraphrasing, that's what I say typically, but Tom had a little stronger wording for it.
What? No.
What do you think?
I don't think Vassell would say that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure he did.
What?
You didn't hear
What?
that?
No?
There's a whole big stink about it.
I feel like I know a publisher that said that about my game, but
I don't even think it's true.
No.
No, I think if you define home as small enough, then yes,
sure.
But it goes against everything that I just said, which is that people are
Yeah.
chasing down
No,
the dollar.
I think lots of good games are not finding homes. I mean,
Anything I make.
I'm just
Well,
gonna
no,
start a company, and I'm gonna sign Jim's games and then put a fake name on them, and then sell them for more, and then just prove
Genius.
the point.
Genius. Dude, it's a popularity contest. It really is.
Well, you know, some of it
For sure is that. I think though there's just a real reality too that we have a very saturated market.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of games that just don't get picked. I mean, there's a lot of games too that like someone works on it, they have a passion, they've designed this game, but maybe they don't know how to sell it, or maybe they don't know how to make it look good, or even the practical stuff like Jim was talking about, functionality and making a card, really practical. On the side of it has to work. Like there are certain rules that you got to follow, but maybe someone has a great game, but they didn't follow those rules when it came to just assembling a card. And because they didn't know that no one like either challenged them or they just don't have that connection, that game is totally off the radar.
I would say 90% of what I see when people are bringing me games, and you guys probably have a different experience, 90% of what I'm seeing is from people that have never published a game before and don't want to hear your feedback because they don't want to compromise their artistic integrity or whatever it is that they think that they have. The very first thing that you're making needs so much help. You're not a prodigy. If you think that you're a prodigy that's going to make Monopoly from out of a stone on a desert island, you're wrong. You're not. That's not going to happen to you.
No.
And so when I'm coming to you and I'm telling you as a publisher, what you're trying to do is cute and quirky, and you're going to sell 100 copies, you should probably listen to me when I say that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it to be a dick and stop you from designing. I want people designing. I love the idea that there's good games out there and that people are having fun doing this.
Yeah, but it depends on what your end goal is, right? If your end goal is to sell a game to 100 people, great, you've done it.
Yeah, but I have come.
So let me paraphrase, or let me kind of resituate that statement. What Tom was saying is that I think, anyways, or maybe this is what I'm interpreting it as, was that Kickstarter, like you shouldn't look at the Kickstarter as a viable way of judging whether a product is good or not, type thing.
Sure.
More in that vein of things, in terms of, if it's not picked up by a publisher, it probably wasn't a good game.
Oh.
That's more what he was saying.
Whoa. Tom. Interesting.
If it wasn't picked up by a publisher.
It wasn't. So
he's saying the opposite of what I thought you said.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, he's more in saying that unless it was intentional, like someone had a game and they didn't choose to sign it, they decided to publish it themselves on Kickstarter. With that exception clause, everything else on Kickstarter is junk.
I don't even know if that's what he's saying. What I mean, when you boil it down, I think what he's saying is that publishers have an important role in the industry to vet.
Gatekeepers. Yeah, the vetting. Okay. I mean, I do think they have an important role. I don't think they're the only role.
Yeah.
I think that they have a more vested interest in making sure that there's no competition for what they're doing. I don't think that they're gatekeepers. I think they're more Machiavellian, if anything.
Interesting.
I don't see as many publishers bogging down games. I see that happening less. Like scooping up a bunch of games and just holding them.
I don't think anybody does that, but I think that they don't. I don't know. I think they have a vested interest if somebody's trying to do something that they know is going to. Yeah, I don't know how to phrase what I'm thinking. I'll have to think on it.
Yeah, but it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting thinking point that, do people do that? Oh, hey, here, Randy said, Vassal's Context was paying a lot of money out for an out-of-print game. He argued that if a game was good and worth having, it would come back in print. Okay, thanks, Randy.
Oh, the out-of-print argument. Okay.
Yeah.
This I can see an argument for, and I would actually say that usually you can it's pretty safe money if you can see the resale is already grown. I mean, just from a flipper perspective, like I have definitely flipped games before. I can definitely say that there are certain games that like they're just gonna sell if you reprint them. There's just enough hype.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the context of it. Thanks, Randy. But I think it was misinterpreted, obviously by people like me. But other people also interpreted it that way. That is he saying that if you don't get your game signed, then it's not a good game, and that
Well,
if
I
you
mean,
use Kickstarter, then you don't have
it
a good
does
game.
make an interesting statement about when your game doesn't get demand after it runs out of its print run.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
also
that says
interesting.
something.
It's interesting on we were talking about personality and superstars and rock stars and
Yep.
hanging on words. And then, like, for I think that day, if I wasn't mistaken, that's all that was on my Twitter. Was all about what Tom said
Yeah.
and the various interpretations, apparently, that I'm mixing up.
Well, you know what also is kind of weird and funny about that statement is that there are definite examples of games that were around for a couple of years, got no love or little love, and then all of a sudden exploded. So, I mean, how do you explain those?
I don't
Everything's
know.
timing. Everything's timing,
I
Daryl.
know, like to me,
I made
there's
180
a lot of luck.
I made 186 years ago. If I'd released it 6 years ago,
Yeah, that
it
wouldn't
would have failed.
people wouldn't be ready.
Yeah. And so a lot of it is timing. It's who you know. It's getting into the right people to look at it, the right people to get excited about it. You could have a great game and you get one naysayer on the internet who has a big website and he doesn't like what you've done.
Yep.
Again, we're back to the popularity contest. But
I
that
got
doesn't
one.
have to be person popularity contest. It just becomes a game popularity.
Well, here's another question I got for you, Jim. While you're on, I'm sure we got to wrap up soon, but I'm curious, why have you never signed with an agent?
Me?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't.
you're this prolific designer making tons of games, and you're commenting that some of it is an issue of
I think. Okay.
name association. What about if you get someone else doing that work for you?
That would be great if somebody else wanted to do that work for me. I think a lack of self-esteem has probably something to do with that. I don't go out looking for people to help because I probably don't think that I'm worth it on some level. I think that has a big effect on where I see myself in the industry. I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about the process.
Right.
And I've gotten to
true of many artists.
Sure. James Ernest has no problem talking about himself.
My statement stands.
I busted his balls about that before. He's a pretty confident guy. Yeah, I don't know. I think I really just want to be that guy. I've always just wanted to be that guy that's working and doing the work. And if somebody wants to come in, if somebody came in and said, Jim, I want to represent you, or Jim, I want to market for you, I would relish that, right? And I would give them $100 million to do that as a reward if I could. But I think going and chasing down an agent or a helper monkey, it just isn't for me. It doesn't feel natural for me.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I know. I mean, we don't use agents because we actually enjoy the process.
Yeah.
But I know our friends don't enjoy the process and they use agents.
Yeah.
Because it's worth it to them, and they get a broader reach in different countries than we do because we never go to those countries.
Right.
The agent does. So I mean, there's pros and cons, right?
Right. Well, let's hope an agent is watching this and then calls me up tomorrow.
Maybe. It's pretty freaking late in Canada. Well, this end of Canada. So it's closing on to 1 o'clock. I have to finish a slide deck for class.
Closing time.
So it's closing time. Any last questions from the internet? I don't think so. I'm reading the feed here, and everybody seems
Any
to
closing
be.
thoughts for you, Jim?
When are the three of us going to design a game together?
Oh.
I'm in.
Yeah, whenever, man. We'll give it a shot.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, there you go.
What's it going to be about?
I don't know.
Oh, well, you think you have that 2-word phrase, and you let us know.
Monkey handlers.
Monkey handlers.
Yeah. I don't.
No.
Game agents, yeah. Oh, and Jim, I need to know your. I'm sending you a challenge right now on Star Realms. So.
I think I'm just Jim Pinto.
Just Jim Pinto.
I think
Yeah.
I think I'm Jim Pinto on Star Realms.
All right, here it goes. Challenging Jim Pinto. Well, there you go. Oh, I lost to somebody else. Damn.
Man,
I,
you guys
I
are
don't
weird.
know why I play this game so much, but I
Yeah,
still do.
you guys
Yeah.
playing so much, it cracks me up.
Yeah, it's just satisfying.
It is. It is satisfying.
Yeah.
Perfect ending.
Yeah.
Perfect ending.
All right, guys. We'll see you all later. Thanks very much for watching. Daryl, do you have any last words?
It's just satisfying.
Just satisfying.
It's like
All
a
right.
Snickers.
Just like a Snickers bar.
You're hungry.
Snickers has
You're
not paid
hangry
us for any
showing.
of this.
It's not good for you.
Yeah, you're hangry showing.
All right. So if you need to reach us, here we are at Meeple Spirit Syrup on Twitter.
People spirit. I want to see who makes that.
Meeple Spirit. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
MeepleSyrupShow.com on our WordPress website. And if you need us, just email us info@MeepleSyrupShow.com or send our Daryl at MeepleShow.com. And of course, YouTube, Facebook, etc., etc. We'll see you guys in 7 days. See you later.